Hi, my name is Nikki Payton, and I will be presenting an overview of Trapped, the 1909 Cherry Mine Disaster by Karen Tintori. To start off, I'd like to provide a little context surrounding the disaster. This book is based off the coal mine fire that took place on Saturday, November 13th, 1909, in Cherry, Illinois. This coal mine fire is considered the deadliest in U.S. history. The story provides several perspectives of those who have experienced the disaster, which the author was able to obtain through diaries, letters, and written accounts of survivors. So now I'll cover a little bit about Cherry, Illinois, the location in which the disaster took place. Cherry, Illinois is located southwest of Chicago. Based on the description provided by the author, Cherry was a vibrant community with a population around 2,500. The author described Cherry as the spot where people from Austria, Belgium, Germany, Greece, Ireland, and various other countries flocked from in a search for a better life. As part of the better life described by the author was the opportunity to join the mining industry. The town's mill, referenced as the Cherry Mill, was operated by the St. Paul Coal Company. This mill opened in 1905 and employed over 500 men. Among those men were a large number of underage workers, some as young as 10 years old. The author referenced an underage worker, Alfred Howard, who did not meet the minimum age of 18 to work in the mine, as it was established by state law. However, as a common practice in the mine industry, the big bosses of the organization had a tendency to look away when this occurred. In addition, wages for workers like Alfred Howard was around $1.13 per day. Inside the mine, there were 3 vines of coal, which are kind of like layers, 2 of which were being mined in at the time of the disaster. There were vertical shafts intended to blow fresh air into the mine, and the mine was also equipped with electricity. However, at the time of the disaster, the electrical power actually wasn't working. Subsequently, the crew utilized old-fashioned kerosene torches, which were attached to the mine walls for lighting. So, the disaster itself. Right after lunchtime, some of the workers were attempting to lower 6 bales of hay into the mine. However, the bales of hay came into contact with the kerosene torches that I had just mentioned. This caused bales of hay to catch fire. However, initially, the small group of miners believed that they had it in control. In fact, it wasn't until 45 minutes after the hay had caught fire that a person finally yelled for everyone to exit. By then, though, flames began to reach as far out as 50 feet, and they grew faster and faster by the minute. In an attempt to put the fire out, the crew made several attempts to connect to the fire hose. However, due to smoke and the inability to connect it correctly, their effort failed. In addition, in the midst of the fire, the filter providing fresh air suddenly stopped. This occurred after a miner named Alexander Norberg believed that blocking the airway would be the solution to block blaze or smoke from expanding even more. However, this eventually caused the air to thicken as there was no fresh air to dilute the smoke, creating black damp, a suffocating mixture of carbon dioxide and nitrogen to build up in the mine. In addition, Norberg ordered for all fans to be reversed in an attempt to blow out the fire. However, this caused the fan hose as well as the escape ladders and stairs to catch flame, which further trapped more miners located in the lower vein, so the lower level of the mine. These failed attempts were further exacerbated by miners being unable to escape due to poorly marked exits and not understanding or not having a good idea on how to operate the new emergency cage equipment that had recently been installed. So, during the fire, 200 miners were able to escape. Following that, word began to spread around town about the disaster. Volunteers began to attempt to save miners. In total, the volunteers made 7 trips, trying to save as many men as they could. On the final trip, 12 men were rescued. However, they had all burned to death. By the evening, the entryways into the mine were closed. However, there were still nearly 280 men still in the ground below, and some of them were alive. A group of miners known as the 8-Day Men built a wall to protect themselves from the fire. However, they had no food, little water, and very little fresh air. But by day 8, the survivors ran out of water. So they broke down the wall that they had built around them to search for a water source. But thankfully, they had found a rescue search party instead. All the men were removed from the mine. However, the oldest miner, named Daniel, passed away just a few days later. So, as a result, 250 men were killed, 116 women were widowed, and 470 children were left without financial support. And lasting impacts of this disaster: the mine was closed, which greatly impacted the local economy of Cherry. The options available for work were either to farm the land or seek work in neighboring areas. However, the mine reopened in 1910, but by 1922, a miners' strike broke out, and a subsequent strike broke out as well in 1927, and this resulted in the permanent closing of the mine. However, beyond 1927, there are lasting impacts that we see today, such as mine safety rules. It's more federally regulated rather than state oversight, and then also child labor laws and the concept of workers' compensation being established.